afternoon, whenever you're listening to this, welcome to the internet's most sophisticated wrestling podcast, discussing the weekly aspects of it all, right here on
the Bald Monkey Wrestling Podcast.
So it's Saturday night. SummerSlam is behind us. Boys, what did we think of SummerSlam?
So
I think I won the picks. That's all I know.
Yeah.
I mean,
disappointed.
Yeah.
Disappointed because we didn't win. Yeah, that's number one. But I'm kind of disappointed. They didn't feel like SummerSlam.
It was really short.
Yeah. Well,
yes.
I mean, it was just lackluster, man. Like there were some fireworks and stuff, and they used some pyro again, but after the few pay-per-views that they've had some decent pay-per-views, it kind of fell flat. It was a little disappointing, and even the NXT takeover, it was a good one as usual, but it wasn't like the best NXT takeover ever. It was a good one. But I'm starting to see NXT starting to slow down a little bit. And obviously we're seeing the same match over and over again with Gargano and Cole, which I don't mind because they always kind of put a twist on it.
Well, that was kind of the thing where it was like, okay, some wrestling fans are kind of getting tired of that matchup. However, by the end of that match, I was very happy. I was like, man, this was a really great match. Like through and through.
Good. And in a way, both Jimmy's and my little prediction for the match for the third stipulation kind of came true with it being a cell and having some tables, ladders, and chairs involved. And I would even say that Chris was in there a little bit too, because I think there was a little bit of blood going on there.
There needed to be more blood, but yes.
In retrospect, when I was trying to determine what I was going to pick for like the tricky stipulation, I think I was going a little over my head saying Hell in the Cell, and I was really kicking myself when I saw that cage. I was like, all you had to do is say cage match, James. That's it.
Well, the thing is, we know that one of our, 12 listeners is definitely William Regal. And he was like, well, they said TLC, a blood first blood, and a cell match. You know what? I'm just going to throw that all in together. And then we're going to throw some sledgehammer, some barbed wire, some bats, some kendo sticks. We're just going to throw it all in there. He was like, man, you guys had a great idea. So, William, thanks for listening to us.
So, hot takes.
Whoa, wait, hold on. Before we
okay.
move on, let's talk about listening to us. Just in case, we don't know where everybody's listening, but our tech team, Big Baby James, we are now on YouTube. We are now on Spotify. We are on Apple iTunes, man. We are on Podbean. We are everywhere now. Everywhere.
We are everywhere. You will find us. Just look. You'll find us somewhere.
We're invading your airwaves. Very true. Very true. Yeah, worked hard
So good job to our tech team.
Yeah, and hopefully it'll be more than just the one guy from W. He'll have to stop listening to us, I think, because we're gonna get way too many listeners. They're gonna be like, oh my god, I just stumbled across this wrestling podcast, and it's like they're prophetic with what they say. Well, okay, so. To kind of run through these pay-per-views really quickly. So NXT TakeOver starts with, as usual, they always love to start with a tag match. So we had Street Profits versus Undisputed Era. Strong match. Was it the best tag team match I've ever seen in NXT? Yeah,
no.
Not really. Not really. But it was
not the best.
Solid. And more importantly is somebody on this podcast, Chuck, said that Undisputed Era was going to be draped in gold, like just overflowing, just dripping with gold. Yeah,
dripping with gold.
Showered.
And they let me down. They let us all down. But that's
did,
okay.
We all
that's okay.
Era.
We did.
But it's going to be okay because the year is not up yet. And that is still the prediction that before the year is up, they will be dripping in gold. So it's okay. We're a little late to the game. They're not there yet, but we have time. So there's more pay-per-views to come. There's more live shows. There's more tapings to come. I have confidence that they will still be undisputed by the end of the year.
So moving right along then, who would have guessed that dark horse match of the night was going to be Io Shirai's match? That match was great.
That's good. Yeah. Well done. Candice LeRae finally got to be Candice LeRae. I mean, she was really strong on the independent scene, and I think she finally got to show what she could do. Some of those bumps she took were great. And Io Shirai is, man, like, I feel like Io Shirai is taking the Becky Lynch character. Obviously, it's not exactly the same, but she's taking that Becky Lynch character, morphing it with the Ronda Rousey character and a little bit of her own, and just making it work so much better than any one of them have been able to make their characters work. Like, something about it is perfect, and it's going to be great. It might be the fact that she has some really crazy in-ring skills. We'll just see what happens when she actually has to grab a mic, other than, you know, the 3 or 4 words she's been able to say. But it was excellent match.
Do we I was thinking about this, but do we feel like there might be like an Asian dream team coming to the WWE soon? Like, if Shirai comes up, like, do we see something going that way, and like could be going like against like the 4 horsewomen kind of thing?
Oh, dude, I've said this.
That would be a good line.
Yes. Oh, I don't know when it was. I don't know how many episodes ago it was, or how many.
Long time ago.
Long time ago. What did I say? We were talking about 4 horsewomen versus 4 horsewomen. I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, we have enough Asians going right now.
They're good. They're all good.
And they're good. That I think there was 3, and the 4th one there for a little while I thought was going to be Dakota Kai, who's not Asian, but she was kind of rolling with them a little bit in NXT, and then she got hurt. So they don't have a 4th yet, right? So who's the 4th? Who do you put in there so they have 4?
The 4th is nobody, because it's not happening. The 4 horsewomen are going to face the 4 horsewomen of MMA. Just
not cool, man.
Just because it's just like it's too obvious, and they're not going to pass up. It's like, why do they always use Brock Lesnar? They're going to use Ronda Rousey as much as they can. So they're going to do that.
If Rousey wants to do it, but yeah.
Oh, she's going to want to do it. It's too big of a... The only real question is, with all these like separated horsewomen of the WWE, how do you then bring all those characters back together?
True.
By the way, let's just interject this in here since we're talking about horsewomen. Sasha Banks is back, baby.
Big time.
But not through your predictions.
No, not through my predictions. Yes, I was totally wrong, and I had,
and you had given up.
Hey, I had given up. I had given up after the pay-per-view. I was like, well, it's over. The Sasha Banks dream is over, and I guess
she's never coming back.
I guess William Regal called up WWE and said, hey, let's screw with that guy and let's put Sasha Banks on the Raw.
Exactly. That is exactly what happened.
Didn't expect it. It was a good spot. I don't get the hair change. Hopefully she'll go into that when she finally gets on the mic again. But good spot otherwise, and we'll see what she can do. I mean, she could put good program on with Becky. We might see her and Becky at Clash of Champions, so that'll be a good match. And then Natalya kind of went, face for a little while after she was playing the heel, but being in home country of Canada, they were able to kind of switch it on us. So it's good to see Sasha Banks back. I mean, obviously they need her on the roster right now.
somewhere Stephen Hill has a big smile on his face because
yes.
he's so
it is
happy.
Officially
boss
time.
Yep. He loves his boss time. I look forward to her facing Becky, but surely this has got to be the person who takes the title off of Becky. It needs to be.
I don't know. It's
But
hard to say how long. Yeah, it's hard to say if it's something that's gonna take a while. It's almost I don't know, man. You could kind of let Becky just roll with this all the way through Rumble, and then whoever wins out of Rumble could tease it, and depending on what storyline they're going. I mean, wouldn't it make sense to bring Rousey back at the Rumble and have her just house everybody from the number 1 position, and then take on Becky again at WrestleMania 1-on-1? Like, doesn't that storyline make sense?
Yeah, but what about that whole thing where Sasha Banks was on the shelf for a while and pretty pissed off, and now maybe they've made her promises to bring her back in? What about that?
I think she needs to go up against Bayley. I think she needs. So she's jumped Becky. I think she goes and jumps Charlotte, and then she goes and jumps Becky, Bayley. She jumps every single one of them. She goes after Bayley finally and gets the title from Bayley.
Although maybe to her detriment, hopefully she didn't shake Vince McMahon's hand and make a gentleman's agreement with him, because it's not working out for Dolph Ziggler right now.
No. Not so much.
Did you hear about that, Chuck?
No, I did not.
So apparently, Dolph Ziggler had a gentleman's agreement with Vince McMahon, a handshake agreement, not written down though, that after he sold for Goldberg and sold for Miz and put so many people over, that they would basically release him. And he went to go thank him for doing that, and then he was like, "Yeah, that's not happening. I'd rather just pay you to stay at home."
Oh man! Wow.
Typical Vince.
Well,
you think these people would learn by now?
Yeah, I know. Speaking of Vince, I don't know if you guys read this, or even heard it on JR's podcast. I don't know if it was like last week or whenever, but I read an article talking about how some of the upper management in MWA, we're talking about a while ago, wanted to actually kill off Vince McMahon.
Again? Like, didn't we kill him off at some point?
No.
This is before that, though.
No. Like, really kill him off. Like NWA.
Oh.
No, like the NWA Wrestling Association. We're talking way back. They
legitimately
legit
sleeping with the fishes
to kill him.
Put a hit out on him, huh?
Yeah, and it's funny because the story that JR talks about is that they were in a meeting. He ends up going into the bathroom in one of the stalls. All of a sudden, a couple of these guys from the meeting come in and they start talking about it. And he's in there like, okay, I'm going to do a disappearing trick and lift my legs up so no one can see him, and like just be a fly on the wall in here. And I mean, who knows how true it is, but
that sounds so made up.
I mean, kind of crazy.
That sounds so movies like made up. Like, that's ridiculous. And JR was on the toilet. Wait, time out. JR was on the toilet. I'm pretty sure he was making a lot of grunts and noises while he was sitting on that toilet. They heard him in there. There's no way.
But I mean, like, if you think about it, back at that time, I mean, you know, who knows what could have happened.
I don't disagree that there was probably some people that really disliked Vince McMahon, but a legitimate hit out on him would be a little ridiculous. I mean, he already blew himself up in that limousine that one time, so I think that's good enough.
Yeah, I think I was at that Raw. Does that happen in Connecticut?
Oh, cool. He's still here though.
Yeah, he is.
Speaking of still here, what did you think about the Brock Lesnar and Seth Rollins match they put together at SummerSlam?
As much as I want to say I hated it, I actually really liked it. I really enjoyed it.
I agree. It's like they've got that match down to a science, I think. And the best thing, and I think I mentioned this through text, was I love it when Brock Lesnar fights somebody that he likes working with, because he sells for them so well. I mean, when he's on the table and he, before he gets smashed through it, he looked like he was flipping dying. Like his face was like so red. I was like, oh my gosh, man! Like he's going to bat for Seth Rollins right now. It was good. It was a good match.
He commits. I mean, the Styles match he committed for, the Balor match he committed for, and this one obviously. Well, all I guess is this the third time? Well, second time that it's been 1-on-1, right? So he definitely committed, and yeah, it was a great match, well put together. I love the premise of Seth figuring out how to get out of Suplex City essentially by doing the flip onto his feet, and like almost looking surprised every time he hit it. So yeah, it was a little more believable almost than the first time when he just basically just kicked Brock in the nuts. So it was good. I was probably one of the better matches of the night, except for one other match that
there was three matches
might be worth talking about.
Honestly, there was 2, 3, maybe 4, maybe 3.5 matches that I thought were okay. I would say that the AJ Styles match was solid. I don't think it was spectacular by any means, but two good workers put on a pretty good match.
I didn't like his ring gear. I know it was like a whole like throw to Nightwing.
Yeah,
but
Robin.
Like I just I don't know. That's not Ricochet to me. He looked weird. So and then it just wasn't even his best stuff. Like he did a couple of his spots that he normally does, but definitely not his best stuff.
Not to mention in the scheme of like comic book heroes and stuff like that, who cares about Nightwing?
Might as well have been Aquaman.
Well, okay. Wait a second. Nightwing's better than Aquaman.
Truth.
So R-Truth.
R-Truth.
Yep. It catches on, man. It catches on. So then I would say another kind of half one maybe for me is the Kofi Randy Orton match was okay. The ending was kind of
but the ending, like to have a good match and then put an ending out like that, that's what kills matches, man.
Yeah.
A double count out, come on.
Yeah, it didn't make much sense.
They're both better than that. They didn't know how to end it. No one wanted to put the other one over because they wanted to keep this match going, this promo going for another couple of weeks through Clash of Champions, I guess. But come on, you're better than that.
And then you have a match that, if we try to look at it from a neutral standpoint, the wrestling really wasn't that great in it.
I'm not neutral.
But the storytelling was so good in the Fiend match that it was the best moment of the night. It was like everything about, and it was really the entrance. So yes. That whole entrance was just awesome, and the head lantern was amazing. I think we all reacted the same way. We were just like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is great. This is, oh my God, look at the lantern. It's a head. Oh my God.
And then WWE went and edited out the lantern head on a couple of different, in a couple of different places. I think you can still see it on the WWE network. But if you look at some of the entrance videos from that, I think maybe even on like Twitter or something or other news outlets, they've like edited out the lantern head.
They had to. There was a big. That's the thing. Yeah, there was a whole thing before SummerSlam that it had come out that it was rated TV-14, and everyone's like, "Why is it TV-14? What's going on? What are they about to do? What's going to happen at SummerSlam?" That was it. The Fiend is it. He's the reason why they have to put that TV-14 on it, and he's the reason why they're going to edit those things out, unfortunately. As long as we see him live, I'm okay with that. I get it. It's whatever.
It's the reason that they have to use the Fiend, honestly, at pay-per-views and not on television, which is why Mr. Rogers is so important.
And
they need to use him.
It works so well. And did you hear that they so he had like a loot box essentially, like a just a gift box of all different things from the Firefly Funhouse, and it sold out. They made like a couple hundred of them, or whatever it was, and it sold out like immediately. So now it's like on the secondary market like crazy. Like, it's hilarious to me. Like, they're playing this perfectly, because the Mr. Rogers, the Firefly Funhouse, him like not actually being the Fiend when he's doing his promos are awesome. And then the Fiend is just in the ring. Everything else in the ring is just the Fiend, and everything else in his promos is just him doing the Mr. Rogers character. I mean, it's working so well. And I do like his finisher now too, taking it from Mankind.
Yeah. Do we feel like the Mr. Rogers character is going to come out in the ring at some point, though? Do we feel like it has to, or it should it not?
I obviously kind of wanted that and pitched that, I think, in one of our podcasts. But I think what they're doing is working. And if you keep it segregated like it is right now, I think it works. It's good. I don't think you need to have him wrestle as Mr. Rogers. I think there's a way to do it that it's going to add to the story and add to the character, but I don't think it's necessary. I think you could do exactly what you're doing right now and it works.
But what about cutting a promo in the ring? Not technically wrestling, but at least being, live in the ring.
No, because his promo, think about it. He's already cut promos as the Fiend in the ring. His promos were showing up, right? Showing up in the ring and jumping Balor, showing up in the ring and jumping Angle, showing up in the ring and jumping Foley. That's his promos. That's an in-ring promo without a word. It's just his sick laugh when the lights go back out. That's
all you need. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think they're they're nailing it. This is the one storyline that they just continue to nail week in and week out. And, obviously every week it makes me nervous because I'm like, okay, when's creative going to jump in there and just really just mix shit up and make it really bad. Yeah, I don't know. I'm looking through this card though, and I think there's only really one more important thing to talk about. And, before I got into this week, there was a text exchange between me and Chris about this Trish Stratus match. And the more I thought about it, the more I think it's not worth us even having that conversation. Whether you like the Trish Stratus match or not, whether you think it works or not, that's not important. But what is important is a text message that I sent everybody about 3/4 of the way through the pay-per-view. And so I do want to frame this though. So now, in my humble opinion, and again, Chris doesn't agree with me, I thought the Trish Stratus match was a little bit of like a wasted time slot. So between the Goldberg match and between the Shane McMahon match, again, I love KO, but between that Shane McMahon match, that is a lot of wasted time. On top of the fact that SummerSlam is usually a pretty long show, and they made it like the size of a normal pay-per-view this time. And that was a mistake. So I sent this message out, and I said, Nakamura, Black, Andrade, Reigns, Bryan, Ali, The New Day, the Viking Raiders, the OC, The Miz, Rusev, the Usos, Samoa Joe, The Revival, Cesaro, Heavy Machinery, and then I stopped there. Guess what every single one of those people or persons have in common?
They were not at SummerSlam.
And they're all pretty good acts, too.
Pretty great storylines, pretty good in-ring, pretty good promo. I mean, some of them amazing promo, some of them amazing in-ring. Some of them had the whole package and left off of the SummerSlam card because of the three that you named how to have spots on the SummerSlam card. And I don't dispute that. That's a valid point. It's a valid point that Trish, Goldberg, and Shane don't need the spots. We have enough good wrestlers to take those spots. But WWE is a little bit frantic right now with the idea that they're going to be going up against AEW soon. And I think they're just trying to bring the nostalgia back to remind people why they're watching WWE and why they should continue to watch WWE even when there's alternative programming coming up.
So we can see washed up people who can't do anything.
Well,
just
let's be
stand in the
fair.
ring.
Let's be fair.
Trish did a good job.
I thought Trish did a good job. Again, Jimmy didn't agree, but that's fine. And it pains me to say it, the way they put together the Goldberg match was good. It worked. It got over quickly. It was done. I think we all know that Dolph's always going to do a great job, right? Dolph's always going to make whoever he's in the ring with look good. And he did. He made Goldberg look okay. I'm not even saying good. Okay.
we all guessed under, by the way, for how long the match was going to be.
Yeah.
We tried to guess how long the match was going to be. And of course, Chris, you guessed like 15 seconds or whatever, but then the bell rang and then they just sat there and like looked at each other for a while.
Yeah, they're jerks. They totally lost that for me.
The best part was Dolph Ziggler super kicking Goldberg, and for just a millisecond before my senses came to me,
I was right.
me thinking, wow, maybe Chuck was right. But then it was like, no, he's not right.
He kicked out at 1. Like, he didn't even like sell it for more than 1. He's like, no, I'm going to kick out at 1.
When I saw him hit it, I was like, oh my God, there's no way. I actually called it. And then he kicked out and I was like, you stupid bastard.
So the one that I wholeheartedly actually will disagree with you is Shane McMahon. And I still think Shane McMahon plays a great role on the roster. I think he's a great heel. He's one of the top 3 heels they have. He's able to get any crowd going because he's still a McMahon. He's also able to turn face very quickly because he's Shane McMahon. And I think that's important. I think they need a Stephanie on the show consistently, a Shane on the show consistently. Vince can't do it anymore. So think about the Attitude Era. Who was part of matches all the time through the Attitude Era? He won the Royal Rumble. He won the championship. Like, Vince was constantly in the ring. So if we're gonna like say that was okay, but this isn't, it doesn't mesh.
Well, no, I mean, I'm not saying that. And honestly, of the 3, he's the one that I say is taking up space, and the reason, because I don't know that I was talking about the fact that he was taking up space at the podcast last week, because I didn't necessarily think that was the case until I saw the match. The match wasn't good.
No, it wasn't.
KO needed to hit him with the chair, and he needed to get disqualified. He needed to be fired. That should have been.
That's the better storyline.
The storyline that they go with, because now it's like, okay, he didn't get fired, and he beat Shane. Okay, well now what are we gonna do? I mean,
Well, I blame us because obviously on the podcast we talked about wanting to see Joe and KO in the ring, so they obviously heard that and decided that they had to figure out how to do that right away this week on SmackDown. So this is what they figured out. So it's our fault. It's our fault. They should just listen to some of the stuff we say, but then ask us when they should actually do it. That's the problem.
Just hire the 3 of us as writers.
Just consult.
Just hire us as writers. We'll stop doing our day jobs, and we'll do this podcast and we'll write for you. It's clear as day.
Works for me.
I'm in.
Yeah. So that space, those gaps, between bad matches and matches that just didn't need to happen, and all that talent that you have, it was a disappointing pay-per-view. SummerSlam was, if it were an average pay-per-view, it would have been okay, but it was SummerSlam, and so it's not okay.
You really could have had a SummerSlam Part 1 and a SummerSlam Part 2 with all the people that weren't involved in it.
Well, that's the thing. But that's the thing. The roster is like so heavy right now. And we complain that some of these shows are getting too long, and then they do a short one and we complain that it's too short. So they just have to find, the healthy medium of
2 matches.
a couple more matches.
Two matches could have made this forgivable. You do
and do like a random like 6-man, right? Like a 6-man or like a battle royal or something. Who knows?
Oh
like,
no, not even that. Like you do like a 4-way match for like the United States Championship or the Intercontinental Championship or something like that. And then you do I guess it wouldn't be the United States. So the Intercontinental though. So you do like a fatal 4-way for the Intercontinental, and then you do like a 3-way tag team match for a set of tag belts. And that would have covered so many people that it would have made it much more forgivable.
Do you feel like the U.S. title is on borrowed time at this point?
Sure.
If they go to Fox and they start merging the rosters again, are we going to see that phase out and the middle card title will just be the Intercontinental title and there'll be the 2 championships and that's it?
Well, do you think it's going to be a full merge, or you think they're going to keep the separation and just move their A-listers to Fox?
I don't know. It seems like the lines are getting very, very cloudy lately. Like there's just guys kind of showing up everywhere at this point. The wild card rule is dead, thankfully. Now they're just kind of showing up and doing stuff and having matches. The Revival showing up on Tuesday, which is great, right? We want to see stuff like that, but I don't know. It seems like they're leaning towards just a full merge.
Well, I love it. I said it a couple of weeks ago. I love that. Like, just let it be so, back and forth. Everybody can be anywhere and all that kind of stuff. I mean, just do it that way. It's so much better, in my opinion.
Well, the only time that it really matters is Survivor Series. The divide is important at Survivor Series, but you can make different types of divides. Like you don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless
you have a show like NXT coming up before Survivor Series, you push NXT and you do Survivor Series main roster versus NXT.
Oh.
So you're talking about NXT.
That's a way. Think about it. That's a way to push all the NXT people up as they're about to go to a live show on Wednesday nights, and still carry those storylines on the main show. So now all of a sudden you merge SmackDown and Raw to be a team together up against NXT.
Well, let's make it clear. That is a rumor that they're doing that. Now, it is a rumor that was predicted on this podcast, no less, because we predict everything apparently. But that being said, for the listeners, that is a rumor that they're going to be NXT is going to be on Wednesdays.
Strong rumor. It's so strong that they're even announcing. They're saying that it might get announced on Monday.
That's
how
what?
Strong that rumor is.
And I will champion this shit out of it because that was something that I called a long time ago because it just made sense. It's like, okay, well, they're going to take their best product and try to kill AEW with it. And I don't think it's going to matter. People are still going to watch AEW.
Sure. People still watch TNA. I mean, whatever. People are still going to watch other types of wrestling. Sure. People are still watching TNA.
Yeah. I haven't met one of them lately, but... sorry, TNA watchers.
Poor Tommy Dreamer.
Yeah. So Raw and SmackDown, we already covered Sasha Banks. I think the most important thing that was mentioned was King of the Ring. And
yes, something that we've also talked about a bunch on this podcast, bringing back King of the Ring. I think Steven had mentioned it a bunch of times.
Yeah. All of us, universally, all the bald monkeys really like King of the Ring. Now, that being said, it makes for an interesting podcast today because I happen to have seen that they released the bracket yesterday for what the King of the Ring tournament is going to look like.
Interesting.
I have linked it to you guys. So there is a picture on here for you guys to take a look at. And we've got the red side and the blue side. This is why I thought they were going to do this at Survivor Series. I think we talked before this and you said Clash of Champions. To me,
which is possible,
it almost makes more sense to be Survivor Series since they're doing the blue and the red. But that aside, so we'll go through these matches, and we can talk about them as we go through them, and we'll make the picks kind of towards the end. But so on the red side, we've got Cesaro versus Samoa Joe, which two great wrestlers. I mean, how?
Like this is the hardest one for me because I'm just looking at it and I'm like, man, Cesaro's had some great matches recently. He's almost getting a decent push with the Aleister Black stuff. Joe obviously has always been great. He's done great stuff with AJ. He's done great stuff with Kofi. Done great stuff with Brock, even. And now it's like I have to pick one of these two guys. Like that's killer for me. Like flip a coin. Either one I'd be excited about.
But, I love Samoa Joe, but isn't he a loser? Isn't all he does is lose?
You can say the same thing about Cesaro.
Okay, so yeah, I guess it's Battle of the Losers Club. This is true. Yeah. This is a good point. Okay, so again, we'll go back and we'll make picks on this. And but by all means, both of you guys just cut in whenever you want to talk about any of these people. Ricochet versus Drew McIntyre, which I find to be kind of an interesting match. I guess with the back and forth between Cedric Alexander and Drew McIntyre, I guess I expected that to be the matchup because both of them are in this tournament. So I guess I expected that kind of like that rubber match to be like, that's the match. The King of the Ring match is going to be, that rubber match for them.
So if that's the case, are you basically assuming that we're going to see Drew McIntyre come out of the bracket and Cedric Alexander to come out of the other one because we haven't gotten to that match yet, but he's the next pair up and they don't touch each other until the semifinals. So
it would be a
and that's kind of what we're looking at, right?
Yeah, it would be a compelling from a story perspective.
Well, and then this is okay. So let's go back to like 80s wrestling at this point. Because when you pick King of the Ring, you have to think this way. You basically think, well, every bracket is built a certain way because you have to mostly have faces and heels fight each other in every round. So the only round that it doesn't really work in, if I'm looking around, I think it works everywhere. It really does in the first round. So Cesaro, Samoa Joe, Ricochet, Drew McIntyre. If you say McIntyre is going to win, then Samoa Joe, maybe. I don't know. Cesaro.
Samoa Joe's been more of a face
lately,
right now. Yeah.
So just by that thought process, I guess that's where I'm going in the first two picks there.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep moving on. So I had mentioned that Cedric Alexander is in King of the Ring. They have him slotted to go up against Sami Zayn. Now that obviously clear face heel.
Another loser.
Losers club match. Yeah, for sure.
This whole left side of the bracket is basically a bunch of losers if you look at it. Like it's kind of rough.
Yeah. And then you've got The Miz versus Baron Corbin. Haven't heard a lot from Baron Corbin lately in this short amount of time. Hey, King
Corbin.
King Corbin sounds pretty good, doesn't it?
Sounds awesome.
I would love to get Chuckles a shirt that says King Corbin.
Well, it won't happen, so we don't have to worry about that.
Oh, hard talk there. Hard talk. He seems so sure of himself. Yeah, I agree.
Only if he brings back the long hair. Only if he brings back the long hair.
What? Then I'm okay. No.
That Hulk Hogan haircut he had going on? No way, man.
Dude, he's so much better. The corporate Baron Corbin's so much better.
Constable Corbin.
Constable. Yes. So, moving to the other side, we've got Kevin Owens versus Elias. Predictable matchup, considering what's happened. Ali Buddy Murphy, which I love and hate at the same time. It's going to be the match of the flippin' tournament. That match is going to be so good. That being said, God, I hate to have to pick one of these people, and I pick with my heart. And I know KO's the face, so I know Ali's not going to win, but I really want to pick Ali anyway.
Yeah, I don't think you're getting that one. I think Buddy Murphy might have just got himself a pretty decent push after this match he just had with Roman Reigns. They're putting it way over. It was good, but they're putting it way over, so he might get a push here.
Yeah. Then we got Chad Gable versus Shelton Benjamin.
You mean Charlie Haas versus Shelton Benjamin? Oh, well, no, it does say Chad Gable. I'm sorry. I
It
misread
says
that.
Chad Gable, yeah. And then Apollo Crews versus Andrade, which happens to be the easiest match in the whole bracket to pick.
Poor Apollo Crews.
I'm just glad they're not calling him just Apollo. Remember they were going through their phase where everything was just like one name.
Yeah, well, you can go back up a couple spots, and there's Ali still sitting there.
Yeah,
So
I guess
there's
Mustafa doesn't
definitely
sell
one
well.
names. Yeah.
No.
But it definitely it's a bunch of interesting names because it's not, Roman Reigns. It's not Daniel Bryan. It's not any of the biggest names. I think McIntyre and Owens are probably the two biggest on there right now. Strong storylines and strong pushes. Obviously, you can make an argument for Ricochet. You can make an argument for The Miz. But it's a good group of guys because it's going to give some guys exposure, and that's what all these tournaments should do. That's what every tournament has done so far for the WWE. It's given guys who don't get a lot of TV time some good TV time, some time for promos, and hopefully pushes them a little bit.
So what's the over under that Kevin Owens is in the finals of King of the Ring versus Shane McMahon?
So he would take over for The Miz again after The Miz gets injured.
Yeah, I don't know.
The King of the Ring? I don't know.
I mean, I know Shane McMahon's not on this list, but
Oh, yeah, but Drew McIntyre is, and they are friends. So, yeah, that could happen, and that would suck. I'm not into that.
Oh, really? Really? You were just defending Shane McMahon so much earlier.
And then Shane McMahon would be king of the world at that point.
Yeah, it's king of the best in the world, king of the ring,
king of the world.
Yeah,
WWE. If you use that, I'm coming after you.
King of the world. Yeah. Oh, it's done. It's done. It's set in stone. Chuckles.
What are the chances of one of these wild card guys actually wins this whole thing, like a Gable, like a Andrade, like a Buddy Murphy, like
a Shelton Benjamin? I mean, we have been seeing his face a lot more lately. He just stands there.
Yeah, but what is he doing?
Who knows? Who knows?
I don't think he knows.
I think you have to assume that King of the Ring is specifically centered around Kevin Owens. And so the easiest way to fill out the bracket is, how do you make Kevin Owens' quest to be King of the Ring as hard as you possibly can?
See,
because he's the only one that was really, really, really talking about it.
Yeah, but that's why I disagree. I feel like that's an easy way to gain heat, is to knock Kevin Owens out in the first round via some kind of interference against Elias and get Kevin Owens out of the tournament right away and go right back into a feud with Shane.
Because Elias is good friends with Shane too.
This is true.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, no, then I want both of you guys to do this right now. You see all the names right in front of you. So without going through every single pick, I just want you to, what name pops out from the screen and you think that person is who is winning King of the Ring?
Baron Corbin.
I love it. Oh God, I would love for Baron Corbin to win King of the Ring. And I'm sorry, Chuckles, but it's so good.
Makes sense.
I know.
He would get the most heat out of it. He would get a great push out of it. He would annoy the crap out of fans from every freaking state. Everywhere they went, they would have to hear Baron Corbin's voice and have a crown on his head, and he'd wear a big stupid robe. Oh, he would get so much heat. It would be awesome. He's got it as the heel on this board. He's the one that's got to win.
Captain Chuckles, what do you think?
I don't know. I can totally see Corbin doing it.
I want you to go with your heart, Chuck.
Everybody hates him now. I honestly would like to see Andrade. I like really enjoy his matches, no matter who he's been against that I've seen. he does such a spectacular job, like in every aspect. You know, he's got some great moves. He sells his opponent's moves really well. I mean, and I know we're not talking picks yet, but him and a Kevin Owens, or him and an Ali, or him and a Buddy Murphy in the semifinals on that side would be spectacular matches.
Yeah, I concur. Who do you guys think I want to win the whole thing?
Ali.
For sure.
I would go with Ali.
Am I that I'm just way
Yeah.
too predictable.
Yeah.
He's
I
great.
mean, you've been picking Ali for a while, man.
I have.
As much as you've been saying Sasha Banks is coming back, you've been picking Ali.
Well, on behalf of Ali, I just want to say you're welcome, Kofi Kingston.
Kofi thanked him. Kofi called him and thanked him.
Yeah, it's just like it's just one of those things. It's like, Mustafa Ali is well overdue for his push.
Who?
Oh, Ali. Sorry. They cut the Mustafa off.
Yeah.
But,
Cut that out.
Now, with this Buddy Murphy push, would I have any issues with Buddy Murphy being the one? Not at all. I would. It's interesting. You talk about some of these heels and faces have to face each other like in a typical heel versus face way. But when I look at these boards, I would almost like to see Drew McIntyre versus Baron Corbin, and see Baron Corbin cheat to beat Drew McIntyre.
Yes, of course. Yes.
And
that's what Baron Corbin does well.
And then on the other side, if it's going to be Baron Corbin, I'd like to see Kevin Owens make it all the way up there, and then they can just screw Kevin Owens over and Baron Corbin wins.
Yeah.
I mean,
that works for me.
I think that's a perfectly good storyline. I think that the people you can just cross out, you can cross out Sami Zayn, you can cross out The Miz, you can cross out Cedric Alexander, you should cross out Ricochet, and you should cross out Cesaro and Samoa Joe. So Drew McIntyre and Baron Corbin, I think, are really the only valid people in my mind on the left side. On the right side, cross out Elias, cross out Chad Gable, Shelton Benjamin, Apollo Crews, and as much as it pains me to say it, probably cross out Ali. So Kevin Owens, Buddy Murphy, Andrade. Which way do you go with that? I think we've talked about Andrade being up for a push. Obviously, Buddy Murphy's getting a push. Kevin Owens is Kevin Owens. I don't think anybody on the left side is receiving a push at the moment, which makes it complicated. Like who on the left is actually getting a reasonable push right now? Ricochet's kind of on the downside of his push.
Yeah, Ricochet is on the downside. Joe had like a semi kind of push there. Cesaro was getting a semi push, but he was actually losing, getting a push. Corbin was getting a push, losing, same thing. So yeah, nobody was really getting a full on push without taking an L. So, but I do want to point out something of this bracket. How many of my 205 Live guys are on there and have made a name for themselves enough to be part of a tournament like this?
3 of them.
And if you want to throw Gable in there, it'd be number 4.
No, we're not going to throw Gable in there because Gable was. I think
Really?
Gable was
205, man.
Did you go see the Gable Jack Gallagher match?
But
did you go look at that match?
That's besides the fact. That has nothing to do with anything because Gable was
everything.
already a great wrestler before he went to 205 Live. He was not made by 205 Live, whereas Ali, Murphy, and Cedric had to cut their teeth in 205 Live.
Yeah, but it's not like Gable was made as a tag team wrestler, but he's made as a singles wrestler because he's been able to showcase himself a little bit on 205
Well,
Live.
Okay, that might be a little bit true, but one of the things that we were talking about, before Chad Gable went down to 205 Live was how great of a wrestler he was. All the time, every single time he got in the ring. And I think that fans like us appreciated that. We didn't need 205 Live. Now, when he went to 205 Live, it was like, man, this is going to be good because he's a good wrestler, and they're all really good wrestlers in 205 Live, so they're going to do some great stuff. But he doesn't. I'm not going to call him a 205 liver. Even if he is, just because for me, he had already like kind of cut his path.
I think the bigger thing here is look at the guys that are in this tournament, and they're not your normal big name guys. They're not your Braun Strowmans. They're not your Roman Reigns. They're not the biggest name guys. They're not the biggest guys anymore. They're allowing the smaller, more athletic guys to get showcased, and that's something WWE doesn't normally do.
Well, for a long time, we had always said like the two best people in 205 Live before Buddy Murphy joined on was Cedric Alexander and Ali. And I remember being surprised when Ali got called up and Cedric still was kind of hanging back for a while. Even after he had lost the belt, he was still hanging back for a while. It was interesting because it made all the sense in the world to bring him up. But then they really didn't use him.
They haven't done anything. Yeah.
And they really haven't been using
the only
Ali.
one that's had a decent.
Yeah, but they haven't been using him that much. He got the one push
before he got hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Exactly. They're both spectacular wrestlers. Yeah. And I've seen Cedric Alexander, but I would love to see that. That would be a great King of the Ring. Could you imagine Cedric Alexander versus Buddy Murphy? Like, it wouldn't happen because I don't think the mainstream fan would appreciate that match. But I've seen that match before. You've seen that match before. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a good match. Yeah, they would have to build it up a lot more than just putting a bracket out there. They would have to build some promos and some storylines to get the mainstream fans interested. Maybe have Cedric Alexander go up against Rollins the next couple of weeks, kind of like how they showcased Buddy Murphy against Reigns, just to kind of push the two. Or maybe Reigns gives Cedric Alexander a match, and maybe that's how he builds both of those guys up.
Well, if you think about it, if you put these people against the right people within this tournament, you can give them their push. 3 matches, right? Yeah. 1, 2, 3. 3 matches to get over, or 2 matches to get yourself over before the third match, where those 2 recently over guys put on a spectacular match. But that requires Cedric Alexander he beats Sami Zayn. And then you put him against who? You put him against Baron Corbin, which Baron Corbin's really good at getting people over to the crowd. And then you have him go up against Drew McIntyre and finally and slay McIntyre. And then I think Cedric Alexander at that point is over by the time he gets through those matches.
Yeah. And you can make the argument that Ali, gets over Buddy Murphy, which is going to be a spectacular match. Elias somehow cheats to beat Kevin Owens, and Ali then has to overcome Elias and probably all his cheating and Shane interfering. And then you pull Andrade out from the bottom to go up against Ali in the semifinals, and that's just a spectacular match.
And then Andrade wins.
And then Andrade wins.
Yes. And then it's Cedric Alexander versus Andrade. Yeah. And that would be a great match. Cedric Alexander versus Andrade would be a great match.
This has potential to be really good, and it also has potential to flop really bad when they stick somebody just, I don't know, nonsensical in there. Like Zayn just rolls people up the whole tournament.
Oh,
and
man.
Apollo Crews, somehow gets this push, and it's Zayn and Apollo Crews in the finals.
So they fed Zayn to Joe the other night or whatever. But did you see my text message where I was like, "Oh, he's preaching." He was preaching when he was riffing about Becky Lynch. I was like, oh yeah, Becky Lynch started out kind of organically, but now she's manufactured. And I'm like, it's true. She's manufactured. He's not lying. The only time he told a lie was Samoa Joe, because Samoa Joe has not really changed that much. His character, with the exception of where he had that random face moment where he's going out there to be pissed off at Reigns, and then he's looking out for him because it's like, oh god, somebody just tried to kill him, but that was it.
Yeah,
Samoa Joe's been pretty solid.
Yeah, he's always going to be a heel, but they teased it a little bit last couple weeks.
I love the Zayn character where he just speaks the truth, and then, yeah, the fans are going to boo you for it. I mean, even if I was there, I might boo you for it, but guess what? I'm like, yeah, you're 100% right.
That's what a live mic does sometimes. Let the guy cut his own promos and write his own promos, and it could be gold if he knows what he's doing.
Okay, so, all right, so thinking caps on. All right, so Chuck, Cesaro, Samoa Joe, who wins?
I'm gonna go with Cesaro, actually.
All right, Chris, Cesaro, Samoa Joe.
Cesaro.
All right, I am gonna go with Samoa Joe. Chuck, Ricochet, Drew McIntyre.
I'm going Ricochet.
Chris?
I'll take McIntyre.
I will go McIntyre as well. Cedric Alexander, Sami Zayn.
Oh man. I'm gonna go Cedric Alexander.
Cedric Alexander.
And the trio has come together for Cedric Alexander. Miz versus Baron Corbin.
Baron Corbin.
Oh, the trio's back together again. I know Chris is picking Baron Corbin.
Corbin.
King.
Yes.
No longer the constable, now the king of kings. Actually, that's Triple H, but yeah.
Yeah. Wrong king.
But hey, it would be funny if, Baron Corbin, spoke out of his ass and called himself the king of kings. And then Triple H came out.
Kick his ass.
Just dropped him. Yeah.
We're not going to pick any further than that, obviously,
can't.
since we don't know actually who's going to win. So okay, so SmackDown side, Kevin Owens versus Elias.
Man. I'm gonna go. Flip, man. Kevin Owens.
It's a tough
I'm
one.
gonna go KO.
It's a tough one.
It is.
Yeah.
It's really tough.
Nah.
Because it's like I could see both of those guys going up against Ali or Buddy Murphy
Yeah.
in the next round, and it would make sense.
It's like which one wins the next match. It dictates so much about the first match, right?
Yeah. So I'm gonna go KO.
Yeah, I'm still going with Elias. I still think it's a situation where they're going to screw KO and keep the storyline going with Shane and KO feuding. So Elias.
I like the idea of KO getting screwed over, but I think it's one of those things where he gets screwed over kind of by Elias. So you have him win the first round because then he'll get screwed over in the second round.
Fair enough.
So KO. Ali, Buddy Murphy. Oh, great match.
Like you guys said, this is one of the toughest ones.
Flip a coin, man. Flip a coin.
Yeah. Buddy Murphy. I like the push that he's been getting. I love Ali. I think I don't know when it was, but I picked him for something to show up. And was it the Rumble, to be in the Rumble or something? But I was hoping that he would get pushed then. But I'm gonna go Buddy Murphy on this one.
I'm going with Ali. I'm gonna support Ali, even though Chuck won't. So go Ali.
See, he's saying that to you, Chuck, thinking that I'm picking Ali, but guess what? I got burned. My heart burned me so bad at SummerSlam. All my heart picks, so my heart goes with Ali, but guess what? My brain understands that Ali hasn't even been getting a push right now, and Buddy Murphy's way on the up and up right now over the last couple weeks. Buddy Murphy is winning that match. Chad Gable, Shelton Benjamin. This is the only match that doesn't... I don't know. These last two matches are the only ones that, I think are... I don't know if they're easy, but they're just, weird to pick.
I choose a Box of Rocks. I think the Box of Rocks is going to win that one and then go on against whoever wins the last one. Do we really even care? This is almost worse. I feel like this is worse than Dolph Ziggler Goldberg. It's like they could have used two other people that would have been a better choice to be in the bracket over here. But I'm gonna go with the old veteran and say Shelton Benjamin.
Dude, what's wrong with you? how how are you gonna sit here and just blast two of like the best pure wrestlers that WWE has on the roster?
Because
Two
they're
guys
not
that can go out and
relevant. They're not relevant right
That's what
now.
the King of the Ring is for. That's what these tournaments are for guys that aren't relevant to come out and wrestle. Sitting here and bashing these two guys.
This is great.
I mean, yeah, I'd much rather it be Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin for a real throwback, but it's not. It's Chad freaking Gable, and Chad Gable is going to win this match because Shelton Benjamin, to your point, doesn't even have a freaking gimmick right now.
I love that. He made such a major defense of both people, and then he's like, actually, Shelton, I'm just gonna throw you under that speeding bus that's going by.
Yes. I appreciate Shelton Benjamin in the ring, but let's all be honest, he's never had a great character. The guy has done some amazing things in ladder matches. He's been a great tag team wrestler, but what he's in this match to do is he's in this match to push Gable to have a great match to put him over, and Gable's going to win the match, and it's going to be awesome. This match might be as good, or if not better, than the Ali Buddy Murphy match, and I'm calling that right now.
You are wrong there. I'm gonna go with Chad Gable, but you know what I really want to happen? I want for Chad Gable to beat Shelton Benjamin and for him to be excited and to be leaving the ring, and then one of the announcers goes into the ring with Shelton Benjamin and asks him like how he's feeling, and all he does is do his crazy eye thing, and then they just cut.
Oh, geez, that's
and just be so weird about it. Be like, what the hell just happened?
That'd be good.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go with
I could
Chad.
see that happening. You might have just called that because I
man.
can totally see that happening.
I would like to see Chad Gable win, mainly because I think Chad Gable Andrade would be an excellent match. Apollo Crews versus Andrade.
Andrade.
Yeah, this. I hate to be like this for Apollo Crews, but it's obviously Andrade. He's got a huge push right now, and Apollo Crews, he just needs a different character. I don't know what it is. I don't know. He's got to go find it. The guy's great in the ring, but his character is just not there. So it's easily Andrade.
Yeah, I concur, and I think that the way that they do odds and stuff like that, I would say he probably has the second highest odds of being King of the Ring. When I just look at everybody, I go, Andrade makes sense to win King of the Ring. Kevin Owens is the only one that's kind of like that kind of clouds that up. Even though I don't think he's going to win, I would go with Andrade for sure. So
King Corbin.
Oh, it'd be so good. I just hope he cheats the whole way through.
Oh yeah.
And then have him go against. If he goes against Kevin Owens in the final round, Corbin is winning the damn thing, because Kevin Owens will get screwed out of King of the Ring. Because that is, at this point, to your guys' point of like, hey, you guys did the wrong storyline and you should have done it this way. Well, now this is the new KO storyline, is his push through King of the Ring. So what better way to do King of the Ring than to have him beat Elias, have him fight through as the challenging people all the way to the very end, and then have all those people screw him. Because they're all on Shane's buck.
There's an interesting point here that you kind of triggered in me talking about KO getting the push, and I kind of went back to the fact that they just gave him this push and he was in his hometown of Canada, Toronto, and Cedric Alexander's from Charlotte. And if they plan on pushing King of the Ring finals at Clash of Champions, that could be an interesting angle to have the hometown boy either win, which is huge to get him over, or lose, which is huge for the other person to get some heat. So there's an interesting scenario there. You could push it to Survivor Series, but I don't know that anybody's a Chicago person. But there's that little twist in there that if you try to get the hometown boy pushed to the finals, or at least put one of these matches with him, like a Corbin Alexander match at Clash of Champions for the quarterfinals could be interesting, or even Cedric Alexander's and Drew McIntyre in the semifinals. So a couple of options there that location could play a factor into.
What's the date of Survivor Series? Can one of you guys look that up for me? Because as I look at it right now on this calendar, right? So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks, four whole weeks before Clash of Champions. If Survivor
like
Series,
November
oh god,
24th.
yeah, it's happening at Clash of Champions. Then they're not going to wait that long.
Yeah. No, there's no way they can wait 3 months. Yeah. So Clash of Champions. So Cedric Alexander just got pushed higher to the top of the list of odds, I think.
1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know. I'm trying to break this down for it to make sense. So I guess you could just have one set of matches, one match on Raw and one match on SmackDown the first week, then the next one and the next one, and then the next one and the next one. Yeah, I mean that kind of you can slow it down just a little bit and do it at Clash of Champions. So, but do they do homeboy Cedric Alexander? I mean, they could do it for the Charlotte pop, but then have him lose.
Do you have to do just the finals at Clash of Champions? What if you do the semis and the finals? Then that could be that's a good storyline too, right? You bring Cedric out in the semis against McIntyre, or can't be against Corbin, but against McIntyre. That's a great push for him in his hometown, either to build McIntyre's heat in that semifinal match or to build Alexander's momentum to go to the finals.
Sure.
There's some interesting stuff there. We'll see.
Well, the bigger point that we have to touch on again is
Zayn's going to knock him out this Monday.
I know, right? Guess what? We love King of the Ring. We've been sitting here talking about it for a while. I love it. It's one of the things that, I think it deserves its own pay-per-view, but if this is what I get, I'm fine with it.
Well, it's a tough pay-per-view to do because of what I just talked about. You have to have multiple matches with basically the same, at least one individual in them. So that's tough on them. I mean, the amount of effort and high-risk stuff that these guys do, and a lot of these guys on this bracket that they do, they wouldn't be able to do that many matches in one night without severely hurting themselves. I can't. Could you see Ali and Buddy Murphy and Cedric Alexander putting on 2 or 3 matches in one night of what they do? I mean, that's a lot. So I understand why you couldn't do it as a standalone pay-per-view.
Yeah. How are we about talking about a little AEW here? Just a little bit. I'd like to
bring on the AEW and selling out every show that they're putting out there. Every single show they put out there sells out.
Yeah. There's some interesting matches starting to formulate. I think the most exciting one. Now I know we've seen the match before, but I like the idea of having the Young Bucks versus the Lucha Brothers in a ladder match.
I don't know.
It's a ladder match.
I know.
That's why.
Makes everything better. I know. But again, this is something that we had discussed and I brought up. It's kind of they need to do something else, like Private Party or somebody else needs to just get a push up there to the top of the list, because you're kind of just having the same match over and over again. I understand that they're putting a twist on it with the ladder and they always do a different spot, a bigger spot, but what's going to happen when they're on weekly television? Are they just going to fight each other every week?
Well,
you got to build something up.
For the defense of AEW at the moment, though, they have a tag team championship tournament going on right now. So I think that's why you're seeing like that repeat. I mean, they're obviously doing that repeat because they're trying to have like a big, high-profile match. But if you wanted to try to go into the kayfabe side of it and say, well, why does it make sense that they keep having a match? It's because the other tag teams are fighting to work through that tournament.
Yeah, I still think I just think there's something else. Like, you could have built that tag match up to like the highlight, instead of doing it every single big pay-per-view they do, like do some other matches and build storylines to lead them to each other instead of just constantly feuding with each other. It would only bring up other tag teams. It would only make other tag teams better, give them more TV time. I think it would only make the tag division that they're building look stronger if you separate these guys. You put 1A and 1B together, it kind of makes number 2 look that much worse, not as close to the top. Like,
sure.
Do you really expect anybody but those 2 teams to win the tag titles right out the gate? Is there anybody else that makes sense right now that's getting as big a push?
They've got a couple tag teams that I love, actually. Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. I love that tag team.
Whoa. So this is not who we like or who we think, is a good tag team. It's who are they pushing and who makes sense based on the push right now. Based on the push right now, no one is getting as big a push as those 2.
The tag teams that are pushing hard would be, well, that one that I just said is push, or at least, well, it just depends. So here would be my question to AEW, which and I think I understand AEW, because from the standpoint of, if I put it in reference to WWE, then I should just think it's the opposite if it's AEW. And that tends to follow in certain ways. So if I were like, well, it's WWE we're doing this, then these tag teams that the crowd is really starting to enjoy isn't necessarily going to get the push, but in AEW, they probably will. Because they just want to listen to the fans from a certain standpoint. Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus then are probably the most like tag team outside of the Young Bucks and the Lucha Brothers.
Right. So, who are very well liked.
Yeah, and all of the tag teams are very well liked. I wasn't a huge fan of the Dark Order. They weren't really doing anything for me. But then you've got Best Friends, and I think the crowd likes Best Friends, and I think the crowd really likes Jack Evans and Angelico or whatever his name is.
Yeah, Angelico. Yeah.
Angelico, yeah. I love that tag team too, obviously.
No, great. All great tag teams. You named a bunch of tag teams that are doing a really great job. It doesn't change the fact that none of them are getting that headline match against the Lucha Brothers or the Young Bucks. They're just fighting each other. And that's my only argument. Sure. Why do they have to keep fighting each other? Why not give these tag teams that you're building up the headline match? Are you, if you're so listening to the fans, then give the fans something different. Don't always give the fans exactly what they want, but give us something different that we'll enjoy, because I think that's what we want. We want something different. If you keep giving me the same match over and over again with a different stipulation, I'm going to get bored. Like, you can only put a ladder in a match so many times before I go, okay, I know what this spot's going to be. I know who's going to win this, or I don't even care who's going to win this. Just go out there and kill yourself.
So, James, do you think that the Lucha Brothers then team with Jericho on that premiere episode of AEW to go up against Omega and the Young Bucks?
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. Well, okay. Well, that's taking into consideration, and well, actually, no, that's not. So the one thing that's a little bit difficult to predict, and I think it's lost a little bit of its luster, is back when it was first announced what the World Championship match was going to be, Chris Jericho versus Hangman Page. I think it was exciting, and I think at this point, neither of those guys have impressed way too much. So I think it depends on whether he wins or he loses.
I think they have the wrong 2 guys going for the title, but
yes, I agree. At this point,
that being said, to Chuck's point, if it's the Lucha Brothers in that who's the 2 people that he's going to pick to team with him, that would only prove my point that it's getting stale and it's boring, because it's just constantly those people in the headline match.
So
it needs to be something surprising.
Yeah. So, I'm looking at this card right now, and from the top down, right? So the first match that they have listed is the World Championship match, Chris Jericho versus Hangman Page. The next match is Kenny Omega versus Jon Moxley. That should be the championship match.
Yep.
That's the match that makes the most sense. Now, back to your question. Do the Lucha Brothers pair up with Jericho against Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks? I think that would be fine. I think that could be good, especially if the Lucha Brothers win and they get the gold, and Chris Jericho wins and gets the gold. If you're just trying to do a quick, cheap story to just fire off AEW television, but to Chris's point, make sure you cut through that story pretty quickly and you start pushing and developing things, because I'm giving them a lot more leeway than Chris is. But I don't disagree with Chris's point, and especially because I'm all about that whole equality thing. Well, one of the things that always bugs me that I don't necessarily speak up too much about when we do picks and stuff like that with tag teams is the fact that in the men's tag team division, I feel like we're always talking about the Usos and we're always talking about the New Day, and it's like, forget about those two tag teams. Push other tag teams. I understand that they're good, and I understand that the New Day doesn't need championships to work. They just work. The Usos, they work a little bit better with championships, but they still work without them. So they don't need those to be good tag teams, and I don't like it when they constantly push them over and over and over again. So I can't disagree with your point, Chris. I'm giving them just a little bit of leeway because it's only been a couple, pay-per-views that they've had, and so when you throw a ladder match, but again, AEW is not WWE, so it's not a product that I'm watching all the time.
Looks pretty similar lately. Pushing.
Yeah. You know what isn't on the card yet, and I really, really, I don't know. I kind of say that I don't want it to happen, but at the same time, train wrecks happen. Kong versus Kong is not on this card yet. And I don't know whether I really want it not to be or I really do want it to be, because just the biggest...
Why would you want it on the card?
The biggest train wreck ever. I mean, painful match to watch. It's important for these promotions to figure out that you can't have a really painful match like that.
They had a painful match. What was that? The video game guy had that match.
I loved that match.
I know you did.
It was like the joke. It was like the silly hardcore match. It was great.
No, it was bad. That was a bad match. We disagreed on that one.
Okay,
that was a bad match.
So,
and this Kong versus Kong match will be a
really bad match, epically bad match. Somebody will die, and not like in a oh my god he just did something awesome or she just did something awesome. They're dead way. Like nope, they couldn't do it and they had a heart attack
fell
in the
over
ring
and died. Yeah, you're terrible.
So you have the other matches. I'll just skim through them real quick. The ones that are kind of I guess set in stone. Cody versus Shawn Spears, which we knew that one was coming. Best Friends versus the Dark Order. Winner gets a bye in the tag team championship tournament. Three-way match between Joey Janela, Jimmy Havoc, and Darby Allin. That's what you call the dark horse match to steal the night.
Woo! That's a train wreck on all the good way.
Yeah.
Like all the good way train wreck. That's going to be a mess.
Yeah. Rio versus Hikaru Shida. That'll be a good match.
That'll be good. Those two are great. Those Shida wasn't on the last one, and she's a really good wrestler.
Yeah, she's very good. And then a women's casino battle royale where the winner receives a shot at an inaugural title on the very first episode of AEW on TNT.
Yeah, I don't know. There's we
women's division is a mess. Yes.
Division. Yeah. So it's like I don't know what's going to happen in a battle royal with a lot of bad wrestlers. So
it's easy.
Somebody will die.
It's easy. You have Nyla Rose just win it. That is your safe pick.
Well, maybe that's why you're not getting your Kong that you mentioned, because they're probably having a spot in that match with the two Kongs. So they're not going to have a Kong versus Kong match. They're just going to have a face-off in that match.
Yeah, and when those women go over the ropes, they're going to die.
Oh, I hope not.
Yeah. So now, there have been rumors or predictions that maybe CM Punk might show up, but you know that's the rumor for everybody ever all the time. I love how just negative both you guys got on that right away.
CM Punk will only return to one wrestling organization. It is the WWE. That is the only time he'll return, air quotes, to wrestling. He's going to come back to WWE. It'll happen one day. There's no way he's never going to do it. But he's not going to AEW. He's obviously not doing it for the money. If he was doing it for the money, he'd already be back in WWE. So this is just ridiculous every time it comes up.
Oh, man. Good times.
You know what would be interesting for them to actually bring in. Oh, I can't believe I'm going to say this. They're going to bring in Enzo and Cass as Jericho's partners, because that's the shocking addition to the match that would be more interesting than just the Lucha Brothers, which is the same thing over and over again. And I don't like Cass.
I can't believe that Christopher just said that he wants to see Big Mouth and Big Boobs in the ring together.
It makes sense. I don't ever want most of this stuff. It just makes sense. It's the whole mind over the heart thing.
Sure.
And honestly, there's video out there. Cass is actually in shape. He's actually in better shape than he ever was in WWE. So he's got his crap back together. He probably still can't wrestle though. So I'm still going to say he sucks and he can't wrestle, but that would be an interesting, surprise if those two are the partners in the match.
It reminds me, I have to scour the internet for one of those big Cass pillows to get you.
It must be big and fluffy.
Oh, well, I just wanted to touch a little bit on AEW just because they do have a pay-per-view coming up on the 31st, and we will be talking about it the episode before and probably the episode after it happens.
What's the name of that pay-per-view and where is it coming from?
It's All Out. I'm not sure if it's in Vegas again or if it's somewhere else. I can let me see.
Isn't it the Sears Center? Isn't it in Chicago?
Yeah.
That's why the CM Punk stuff's coming up. Yeah.
Yeah. That is correct.
Yeah.
So yeah, Chicago, good wrestling town, and 31st. So I'll be watching it.
Is it another free per-view?
Nope, not this time.
Wah, wah, wah. No more Bleacher Report. Damn it.
Yeah, no, you could still get it on there. You just have to pay for it.
AEW.
Well, you can't get a free lunch every day, wrestling wise. So we're getting kind of to the end of it. So I don't think we ever did it last. Well, did we do it last week? I don't know. What should our rotating topic this week be? You guys have anything?
What's next for the Fiend?
Ooh. All right.
That's I think that's a good one, because obviously he's done with Finn Balor. He got his win over Balor, and now it's the question of what's next. Who's the next target for the Fiend?
So I would say that my thought process of who the next target should be is still Randy Orton. Still think it should be Randy Orton. The only issue is he's got ongoing things with Kofi at the moment, but I think his next big opponent will be Randy Orton. Now, I'm not saying he's not going to attack somebody in the meantime, but his next true opponent will be Randy Orton.
Mr. Chuckles. Sorry, Captain Chuckles. Sorry.
I am going to say that he knocks on the door and goes after Aleister Black.
Oh, so how does that come out for him though? So who goes over in that?
I don't know. I mean, I would want the Fiend to go over, but man, I do really like Aleister Black. I love his character of like come at me, brah. Like, let's go. I just love that. But I mean, it would be a really interesting storyline. I think two great wrestlers, in my opinion, two good wrestlers. You know, it would just be an interesting thing until, you know, the Fiend then kind of go. I still think I agree with James of going after Orton, going after the people that have wronged Bray Wyatt in the past in a way. And I think it will happen. I ultimately think, like we've talked about, that it is going to go full circle, and we are going to see Finn come out as the Demon, and it'll be Demon versus Fiend. But I think the first thing that's going to happen is he's going to go after Aleister Black, I think.
You know what would be great? If Aleister's sitting there cutting a promo, and then he gets the knock on the door, and then he goes over to the door and opens the door, and then Mr. Rogers is sitting there, and he goes like, "Yowie, wowie, it sure is dark in here."
I love it. That would be so funny.
It'd be I think it'd be a better way of, again, use the Mr. Rogers character, because you can leverage these matches into storylines that go a while. So I don't think, you know, being worried about who goes over with Aleister Black or Bray Wyatt, you can have Bray Wyatt lose as Mr. Rogers. I don't think you can have him lose as the Fiend. So that's why it's so important to have Mr. Rogers there, because if you're just going to have the Fiend fight in pay-per-views and just destroy people all the time, that's going to get boring after a while.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. But I think you have a little bit of time before it gets boring. Unlike what we were talking about with AEW, I feel like they're doing enough different things with the Fiend right now and jumping him around and popping him up in surprise situations that it's interesting still. But to your point, there should be a time where it's not just the Fiend on pay-per-views constantly wrestling, and it needs to be Mr. Rogers too. So I've put some thought into it while you guys were talking, and the obvious choice right now could be that the Fiend has been going after Roman Reigns, and that to me is almost too obvious. So I'm not going to pick that, but I'm going to throw it out there because it could be something they're thinking about. I would like to see the Fiend go up against Daniel Bryan. And I think it has to do with Rowan and the fact that Daniel Bryan has essentially taken Rowan away from the family and skewed his mind. And obviously it could be that throwback that Chuck had mentioned that we have talked about to when Bray Wyatt was dealing with an older Daniel Bryan or older school Daniel Bryan, and that actually took him over for a while by the mind. So it'd be interesting to see that kind of feud start up again. And he could start it either by going after Rowan initially or going after Daniel Bryan initially. I think there's a couple of options in there. And obviously, I think the three of them could play a pretty good part together and then put some good promos together too. So I think that would be interesting.
Both are great. Both would work.
I want to expound on yours too, because this is the creative juices just start flowing. I really like this idea, but done in a particular way, where he goes after Daniel Bryan, and let's say like towards the end of that match or whatever, Rowan gets himself involved after he's just totally destroyed Daniel Bryan, and the lights go out, and Rowan disappears with him. And then the next time we see him is on Firefly Funhouse, and Rowan has turned into a Mr. Rogers.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Yes.
Oh,
Gold.
It would
We have
be
created it.
so
We
good.
have spun it. It is gold.
You take these people, you take these people that you're so used to seeing like as like this bad tough guy, and then all of a sudden, here he is, full smile, acting all crazy with Bray Wyatt. And that kind of goes back to when we first saw the Firefly Funhouse thing. I was thinking, is this some type of weird cult gimmick that they're going for? Like, it would be really cool if he could start growing his group and having all these people that are just like overly happy all the time. It would be pretty spectacular.
It's awesome. I love it. I like when you just take my idea and twist it and make it that much better.
So
love it.
I'm good. I'm good with both of the storylines that you guys rolled out, and I like adding those little twists to them and making them, very. It'd be a very enjoyable way of booking these wrestlers, and it is when you have Bray Wyatt continue to collect people like that. It is a way of kind of taking talent that you don't necessarily know what you're going to do with anyway, and put him towards a storyline that's the hottest storyline in WWE.
I just cross my fingers that they continue on this hot streak they have with the Fiend right now.
Yeah.
And I got to give Bray Wyatt credit towards that, because I got to believe they're giving him a little bit of creative freedom, and he's running with it.
Well, always remember, absence makes the heart fonder. So it was important that we didn't see the Fiend or Bray Wyatt at all this past week. It needs to be a protected storyline, and they just need to make sure that they do it right. So
they even made reference to him as the Undertaker, like esque, with his aura and everything, which is kind of interesting, because I know that's something Steven has harped on a bunch in our conversations.
Yeah.
So could be good. Keep it up.
So I used to always end this podcast talking in YouTube talk with like likes and subscribes and stuff. But, wherever you are listening to us, however you are listening to us, we appreciate the follow if you decide to follow us. We sit here, we're just, three friends that love, 3 to 5, because we have multiple people on here. If you haven't heard Steven the Boss, he'll be on sometimes. Very rarely we have Nikomura, but I'm sure we'll get him on at some point soon. And we're a bunch of guys that just love to talk about wrestling. We really love wrestling. So however and wherever you're listening to us, we appreciate it. And we hope you continue listening. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Peace.